Hey dudes, happy fall. This is the first one I'm recording in fall, which is the best season even if you're in Los Angeles and it all feels the same. They're selling skull decorations at Target, so it's officially a better time of the year. So to celebrate, I'm gonna just read a spooky story at the end of this. So we're just gonna dive right into questions first. First, Antboy said, "Dear Coral, what's your take on lipstick mustache combo? You should go for it. It's a good look. I've seen it before. It can be done well. I think my only advice, which you don't have to take because I don't know what I'm talking about, is I usually prefer it with like an interesting lipstick choice. You know, like a pastel purple or like a glittery black, more than say like a glossy red. I think going kind of like a slightly weird, interesting direction always works more for me, but like I said, I don't know what I'm talking about, so don't listen to me." Undead Rob said, "Dear Coral, I found this in an old lunchbox I have where my sticker collection is and thought you might appreciate it. And it is a ticket stub from the first Jackass movie, which was in October 2002. Damn, I think my oldest ticket stub is like Fast and Furious 7. And I only know that because I found it while starting to pack stuff up for my move the other day. On that note, favorite Johnny Knoxville movie aside from Jackass? What has he been in that's not trash? I've never seen Dukes of Hazzard. Men in Black 2. He's the gross guy in Men in Black 2 with the little second head. I think that's maybe the only Johnny Knoxville movie I've ever seen besides Action Point, which was pretty disappointing. I saw The Ringer, where his character pretends to be a mentally disabled person so he can compete in the Special Olympics and win, and then I think through that process has like a change of heart and realizes the error of his ways. At the time, it seemed nice. I don't know how well that movie would hold up. I know Knoxville has done like a couple different types of advocacy for just better representation for a variety of disabled people in Hollywood. So that makes me think his heart was in the right place. But I don't think I could watch that movie today and not feel deeply uncomfortable. So I'm sticking with Men in Black 2. Flapjack's here. He can't stay out of the spotlight. Should we look at the next question, Flapjack? Okay. Jid said, "Dear Coral, do you plan on watching the new Netflix show Maniac? Will you give us a CC breakdown if you do?" Sure. Yeah, I don't really know anything about that. I keep seeing the ads for it. I guess it's just like the super bad reunion we've all been waiting for. I might watch it. I'm always looking for new stuff to watch. I'm trying to catch up on Bates Motel right now, which tells you how far down my list of like to watch TV I am. So maybe I'll give that a shot. Lampoon said, "Dear Coral, during some more recent GTV content, you giggled at Joey and Nick innocently saying nut and wall meat. Is this a byproduct of your stint at the Attack, CG, or has it just enhanced your general sense of humor?" I think that's always been in me. That's always a part of who I am as a person. The last couple years might have enhanced it, but not much, honestly. I think I got a reputation for not having that kind of sense of humor just because I'm not as like in that headspace as a lot of the other people. So I think I got an unfair reputation for not having a shitty sense of humor when I really do have a shitty sense of humor. So yeah. MD Long 2 said, "Dear Coral, is there any kind of media that you enjoy that you feel most people would think you would not like?" I feel like I already have this contradiction going of like trashy high femme stuff like Bachelorette and Pretty Little Liars and Rose All Day t-shirts, and like I already have that part of me that's well known that contradicts the part of me that's into like horror and punk and general like baby goth aesthetics. So I don't know what makes that like holy trinity up of weird conflicting content I like. Makeup tutorials, crossword puzzles, Buster Keaton movies, The Great British Bake Off, Jeopardy? I don't know. I'm too on brand. I think I'm just too on brand. Next is Corn Soup. Corn Soup said, Dear Ms. Borland, have you been to Museum of Natural History yet? Tell us about your favorite museum that you've been to. I haven't. Is there even one in LA? There must be. I haven't been to the one in LA. I went to the one in Atlanta a lot, and my favorite museum is actually a Museum of Natural History, and it's the one in London. It's huge. It's supposed to be like the best one in the world. It has an insane fossil and dinosaur collection. It has mummies and a full like whale skeleton replica thing. It has all of this cool interactive stuff about space and time, and the architecture is just so gorgeous, and the building is so big and so old and is so like beautifully made that it's like you get a sense of the reverence of what is in that museum the second you walk into it, which I really appreciate. So London Natural History Museum is my favorite museum. Out here, I do more of the art museums. I have a membership to LACMA, which is really nice because it's huge and they have like a constantly rotating calendar of exhibits, and there's always some really cool stuff. And it is relatively close to me. It's like the closest museum to where I live now. So I'd go there a lot and just kind of spend an afternoon there. I also, out here, I really like the Broad, which is pretty recent, and it's really small, but its collection is like so intensely curated, and it's a great way to spend a few hours, and it's free, and yeah, the Broad's really cool. I also like the Museum of Moving Image in New York. That one sticks out to me just because I'm a filmy kind of person, and I like a lot of the more like modern stuff. So yeah, those are my top museums. Good question. Incogni2 said, Dear Coral, does Mike Wazowski wink or blink? I think he can do both, because there's like, you can tell from like body language and facial expression if someone is like doing a wink even if they don't literally wink, you know, like this is different than like, even if I don't wink, if I go like that seems like a wink even though I failed. And I think Mike Wazowski can do the same thing. Mike Wazowski can either just like blink normally with his one eye, or if he like turns and gives you like that's a wink even though I used both eyes and even though he only has one eye. So I think it depends on context. I think, you know, he's a man of multitudes. He can do it all. Spy Scout said, Dear Cole, what's your favorite Halloween time music? I have a playlist that I started maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, that me and a few friends kind of curate, that is mostly it's a Halloween party playlist, but when it gets to be like mid-October, I start just listening to it anyway, and I change it up a little bit every year and add new stuff. I can make a copy of it and share it with you guys as a Spotify playlist if that's something you want. But other than that, when fall rolls around, I kind of just descend into post-punk, and Nick Cave's entire discography is certainly Halloween appropriate. Man is also really good. Last year was the first year I started listening to The Fall a lot, so I'll probably get back into that. The Fall's discography is huge, so there's still a lot there I haven't covered. I also usually take some time and reconnect with Alkaline Trio's older stuff. Alkaline Trio was kind of like my first horror punk band. I never got into the Misfits, and I didn't really start listening to the Cramps until a lot later, so Alkaline Trio is like my baby's first vampire music. So I spent some time with them again as well. But yeah, I'll share that Spotify playlist, I guess. The cats are fighting on a cardboard box, because if I'm in this room, they also need to be in this room. And yeah, I think that's it for questions. So now it's spooky time. I wish it wasn't so brightly lit in here. Oops. So all the audio I recorded in the new take was terrible. I used the wrong USB port. I forget that one of the USBs on my computer is very fucky, and it was all terrible. So this is me the next day after working on the edit, realizing that I didn't have anything usable from the scary story part. So I'm going to record it now, so I hope you enjoy. Pretend this is like a radio show, that kind of thing. Like this is actually someone just telling you a spooky story over the radio late at night. And we'll just do it that way. So I chose a creepypasta. It's actually a series by a search and rescue officer. And I'm just going to read the first part, but if it's something you like and you want to read more, if you just look up creepypasta or go on No Sleep, it's the Search and Rescue Woods series. I'm a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service. I have some stories to tell. I've been an SAR officer for a few years now, and along the way I've seen some things that I think you guys would be interested in. I have a pretty good track record for finding missing people. Most of the time, they just wander off the path or slip down a small cliff, and they can't find their way back. The majority of them have heard the old stay where you are thing, and they don't wander too far. But I've had 2 cases where that didn't happen. Both bother me a lot, and I use them as motivation to search even harder on the missing persons cases I get called on. The first was a little boy who was out berry picking with his parents. He and his sister were together, and both of them were missing around the same time. Their parents lost sight of them for a few seconds, and in that time, both the kids apparently wandered off. When the parents couldn't find them, they called us, and we came out to search the area. We found the daughter pretty quickly, and when we asked her where her brother was, she told us that he'd been taken away by the bear man. She said he gave her berries and told her to stay quiet, and that he wanted to play with her brother for a while. The last she saw of her brother, he was riding on the shoulders of the bear man and seemed calm. Of course, our first thought was abduction, but we never found a trace of another human being in that area. The little girl was also insistent that he wasn't a normal man, but that he was tall and covered in hair, like a bear, and that he had a weird face. We searched the area for weeks. It was one of the longest calls I've ever been on, and we never found a single trace of the kid. The other was a young woman who was out hiking with her mom and grandpa. According to the mother, her daughter had climbed up a tree to get a better view of the forest, and she'd never come back down. They waited at the base of the tree for hours, calling her name, before they called for help. Again, we searched everywhere, and we never found a trace of her. I have no idea where she could possibly have gone, because neither her mother or grandpa saw her come down. A few times, I've been out on my own searching with a canine, and they've tried to lead me straight up cliffs. Not hills, not even rock faces, straight, sheer cliffs with no possible handholds. It's always baffling, and in those cases we usually find the person on the other side of the cliff, or miles away from where the canine had led us. I'm sure there's an explanation, but it's sort of strange. I was teamed up with another SAR officer because we'd received reports of bears in the area. We were looking for a guy who hadn't come home from a climbing trip when he was supposed to, and we ended up having to do some serious climbing to get to where we figured he'd be. We found him trapped in a small crevice with a broken leg. It was not pleasant. He'd been there for almost 2 days, and his leg was very obviously infected. We were able to get him into a chopper, and I heard one of the EMTs that the guy was absolutely inconsolable. He kept talking about how he'd been doing fine, and when he'd gotten to the top, a man had been there. He said the guy had no climbing equipment, and he was just wearing a parka and ski pants. He walked up to the guy, and when the guy turned around, he said he had no face. It was just blank. He freaked out and ended up trying to get off the mountain too fast, which is why he'd fallen. He said he could hear the guy all night climbing down the mountain and letting out these horrible, muffled screams. That story bothered the hell out of me. I'm glad I wasn't there to hear it. One of the scariest things I've ever had happen to me involved the search for a young woman who'd gotten separated from her hiking group. We were out until late at night because the dogs had picked up her scent. When we found her, she was curled up under a large, rotted log. She was missing her shoes and pack, and she was clearly in shock. She didn't have any injuries, and we were able to get her to walk back with us to base ops. Along the way, she kept looking behind us and asking why the big man with black eyes was following us. We couldn't see anyone, so we just wrote it off as some weird symptom of shock. But the closer we got to base, the more agitated this woman got. She kept asking me to tell him to stop making faces at her. At one point, she stopped and turned around and stared, yelling into the forest, saying that she wanted him to leave her alone. She wasn't going to go with him, she said, and she wouldn't give us to him. We finally got her to keep moving, but we started hearing these weird noises coming from all around us. It was almost like coughing, but more rhythmic and deeper. It was almost insect-like. I really don't know how else to describe it. When we were within sight of base ops, the woman turns to me, and her eyes are about as wide as I can imagine a human could open them. She touches my shoulder and says, "He says to tell you to speed up. He doesn't like looking at the scar on your neck." I have a very small scar on the base of my neck, but it's mostly hidden under my collar, and I have no idea how this woman saw it. Right after she says it, I hear that weird coughing right in my ear, and I just about jumped out of my skin. I hustled her to ops, trying not to show how freaked I was, but I have to say I was really happy when we left the area that night. This is the last one I'll tell, and it's probably the weirdest story I have. Now, I don't know if this is true in every SAR unit, but in mine, it's sort of an unspoken, regular thing we run into. You can try asking about it with other SAR officers, but even if they know what you're talking about, they probably won't say anything about it. We've been told not to talk about it by our superiors, and at this point, we've all gotten so used to it that it doesn't even seem weird anymore. On just about every case where we're really far into the wilderness, I'm talking 30 or 40 miles, at some point, we'll find a staircase in the middle of the woods. It's almost like if you took the stairs in your house, cut them out, and put them in the forest. I asked about it the first time I saw some, and the other officer told me not to worry about it, that it was normal. Everyone I asked said the same thing. I wanted to go check them out, but I was told very emphatically that I should never go near any of them. I just sort of ignore them now when I run into them because it happens so frequently. I have a lot more stories. If anyone has any theories about the stairs, or if you've seen them too, let me know. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this weird accidental podcast mode that it ended on. If you have any spooky stories or any other good Halloween themed stuff you want me to do in October, please let me know. I can pick out some other creepy things I find on Reddit, or I have a couple short story books. I can find something in there, or I can do something completely different. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great week. I'm sorry if this was disappointing. I didn't anticipate a tech malfunction and just didn't have everything ready to shoot to get this edit up today. So I kind of tried to make the best of it. But I think it works. I think scary stories kind of work as a creepy radio show. Anyway, seeing me sitting in front of a rainbow 666 pot leaf flag brightly lit by sunlight doesn't really fit the mood. So maybe this is better. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Hope you guys have a great week. Bye.